This meeting to order.
Yeah.
You ready, Mr. Hodges? You calling the roll? Yes, sir. All right, go right ahead.
Ms. Atkinson?
Here.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Dr. Fitz?
Here.
Mr. Howell? Mr. Lockwood?
Here.
Ms. Price?
Here.
Chair Davenport.
Here. Unless there's addition or changes, corrections to last month's minutes, a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes. Before we begin our hearing tonight, our counselor, Mr. Hoy Hodges, will tell you what you have to do in order to get your request approved or turned down. Mr. Hodges?
Mr. Chairman, on all of these applications tonight, I'd ask that the joint zoning ordinance be made a part of the record along with comprehensive plan and all of its elements. The staff report and any exhibits that are attached to those staff reports should also be made a part of the record. And we need to swear in Jenny Wilby, Amy Scott, and Rachel Hurt. We'll be back there momentarily.
You ladies swear to tell the truth. I'm sure Rachel will too. She has everyone.
And we'll recognize their qualifications as zoning administrators, and that the testimony they give tonight will be considered expert testimony. Let's see, the first two items on the agenda tonight are a request for a waiver or variance, and then a request for a variance. And in order to prevail on your request for a variance, there are certain findings that the board must make. And the same thing applies to a variance. The board must find that the requested variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, that it will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, that it will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, that it will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the other requirements of the zoning regulations. And then there's other findings in section 3.8.4 that apply to the waiver. And the last three items are all requests for conditional use permits, and in particular for a short-term rental. And there's certain findings on a conditional use permit that the board must find as well. Those are set forth in section 3.9.5 of the zoning ordinance. The Board of Adjustments must find that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which is proposed, that it will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the zoning ordinance, that it will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services, will not constitute a nuisance, and that it adequately addresses the review criteria in section 3.9.4. And I wanted to go into that further because section 3.9.4 of the zoning ordinance says that it's the burden of the applicant to adequately address all that criteria set forth in 3.9.4 or 3.9.4. And part of that is compatibility. So you have to address compatibility, and you have to do it in such a manner that the board's satisfied that has been covered. In order to prevail on your application, whether it be for a variance or a waiver or conditional use permit, you need a majority vote of those present. A pass vote has no force or effect. And if anybody doesn't like the decision rendered here tonight, you have 30 days to file an appeal, and that goes directly to Warren Circuit Court.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Our first request tonight, Larry Peevler, applicant, and Rita Teresa Creek, Peevler, owner, excuse me, have filed an application requesting a waiver for an accessory structure to be located in front of the primary structure on the property located at 1169 Goshen Church South Road. And this property is zoned RE Residential Estate. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting for the property on Goshen Church South Road in early December. The current zoning of the property is residential estate, RE. Current land use is single-family residential. And then here are some photos of the property from the roadway, the existing home, and then here is their site plan. The applicant is requesting a waiver to allow a detached building to be located in front of the primary residence. And then there are additional details in the staff review summary for your all's reference. Looking down to the middle of the page, the zoning ordinance reference, section 4.4(5)(e)(1), no accessory building or structure shall extend beyond the front of the principal structure. Looking down, looking over to page 2, there is a narrative that the applicant has supplied regarding the summary of request and then addressing the items that are required for granting a waiver. And then there is one suggested condition in the middle of page 2. A revised plat must be submitted to staff for review, approval, and recordation in order to remove the platted overhead electrical easement prior to issuance of a building permit. And with that, we'll look back to page 1 with some points to consider. First, the proposed waiver will not alter the character of the general vicinity, as there are numerous properties along Goshen Church South Road that are zoned ag and are permitted by right to have accessory structures located in front of the primary structure. There is one property in close proximity that has an accessory building located in front of the home. And then second, there are topographical concerns with the rear of the property as it slopes considerably behind the primary home. And that's all that I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions of the staff from the board? The board have any questions of the staff? Is the
Thank you.
applicant here? The applicant's here? Okay. Does the board have any questions of the applicant? Would you need to swear him in for any reason? Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
Make a motion that we approve the request for a waiver, docket number 2025-V-01. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the granting of these waivers will not affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulation. I further find that these waivers will not violate the comprehensive plan, and the extent of waivers of the regulation is the minimum necessary to afford relief to the applicants. The strict application of the provisions of the regulations would deprive the applicants of reasonable use of the land and would create an unnecessary hardship to the applicants.
Proper motion.
And this
Excuse me.
seems quite compatible with the neighborhood.
And that's even better.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes, your request has been approved. Thank you all for coming down. Appreciate it. Our next request tonight, Jason Mills, applicant and owner, and Emma Mills, owner, have filed an application requesting a variance of 7 feet from the required 25 feet building setback in order to expand the square footage of the existing property, of the existing home on the property located at 1438 Mount Air Circle. Now, this property is zoned AG Agricultural and F floodplain. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair Davenport.
We did swear
And for
you
the
in.
for the record, I swear to tell the
Okay,
truth.
Thank you.
We had a pre-application meeting back in December for the property located at 1438 Mount Air Circle, and the applicants are requesting a variance in the agricultural zoning district. The current land use is single-family, and we'll go through some photos of the property here. The planned addition, as you're looking at the home, would be on the left-hand side there. And this is the variance exhibit. The shaded area, or this hatched area down here, is the area in question from which the variance is requested. And the zoning ordinance reference comes from section 434 of the Property Development Standards Table, which requires a 25-foot side yard setback in the ag zoning district. And on page 2 of your staff report, you'll see the required findings for granting a variance along with the applicant's narrative that was submitted with their application. We have noted in the staff review summary that there is a plat restriction requiring a 20-foot building setback on the side yard for any residents in this neighborhood, and the Planning Commission staff does not enforce this requirement, but we did make the applicant aware of this restriction. So the variance that's before you this evening, if granted, would only grant relief from the zoning ordinance restriction, not from the private plat restriction. With that, there's just one point for your consideration on page 1, and that is that the variance request should not alter the character of the area, as the prior zoning ordinance side yard setback in the ag zone was 10 feet. The ordinance was amended in 2023 to reflect a side yard setback of 25 feet, and therefore there are some homes within the existing neighborhood that do not meet this current setback requirement. That is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board or the staff?
Well, I'm just curious why this isn't sort of grandfathered in this kind of a situation.
Because the structure is not there currently. So the homes that are in,
Because the addition is
right,
not there currently.
right, the addition is not currently within the setback.
Okay,
But there are other homes in the neighborhood that don't meet the 25-foot setback, but those were already there when the ordinance was amended.
okay.
Any other questions from the board or the staff? Applicants are here? Yes. Does the board have any question of the applicant? Do we have any need to swear him in for any reason? Any opposition to this request? Opposition? Motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the request for a variance, docket number 2025-VS-02, of 7 feet from the required 25-foot side yard setback in the ag zone. The testimony presented at this public hearing has shown that the granting of this variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulation. And as noted, other homes in the same neighborhood have similar situations and have been allowed to build. Therefore, this does seem quite compatible with the neighborhood.
Proper motion.
Motion by Dr. Fitz,
Second.
second by Mr. Lockwood.
Dr. Fitz,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes, your request has been approved. Thank you all for coming down. Good luck to you out there. Our next request tonight, Charles and Christina Johnson have filed an application requesting a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 1776 Hayes Pondsville Road. The property is zoned AG Agricultural. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting on December the 3rd for the property that you highlighted. Current zoning is agriculture. The current land use is agriculture. Here are a couple of photos for your review. So this is from the road. The structure to the right would be the accessory apartment that the short-term rental would be. And then there's just kind of a general photo of the house in relation to the accessory apartment there. And then here's a site plan for your reference, which is included in your packet as well. And the applicants are requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental in an existing accessory apartment on the property. Looking at the middle of the page under the zoning ordinance reference, Article 5, Section 5.1, the use table, a conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned agriculture. Below that are the specific use standards for a short-term rental. Looking at page 2, at the conditions that the applicants have supplied. Number 1, a maximum of 2 rooms for rent. Number 2, a maximum of 2 guest vehicles in the designated parking area, and a turnaround is available. Number 3, quiet hours will be from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. And number 4, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. Below that are the conditional use permit findings for your reference. And looking back at page 1, under the points to consider, there are none pending public hearing and testimony of any of the items we discussed. That's all we have for our staff report. Can answer any questions.
All right. Any questions of the board, of the staff? Any questions of the board and staff? Is the applicant here? Could you come, I just want to ask you one question, if you don't mind. We need to swear you in, if you don't mind. Could you give us your full name and address, please?
Christina Johnson, 1776 Hayes Pondsville Road,
You
Smithsgrove.
swear, I'm sorry, you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay. I just have, you've got it noted on here, but just for the record, you live in the house that's next to this, and you plan
Yes,
on staying in the house?
the
next
house
to
was
it?
originally built for a mother-in-law's house.
Okay.
But she's 94 now and had moved to Michigan.
But you're going to be living there?
I'm still there,
That's right.
yes.
Okay, all right, that's the only question I have. Does the board, wait a minute, does the board have any questions of the applicant? Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Can you come up, please?
I just wanted to raise my hand. It was a little dull.
Well, come on up, we'll swear you in, you know. Sometimes we do get excited here, believe it or not.
Yeah, we've had one cardiac arrest.
Well, thank you so much, I appreciate that. All right, no opposition besides you. All right, motion, please?
I make a motion, we approve the conditional use permit docket number 2025-C-01 for short-term rental with the conditions as presented in the staff report. Testimony presented at this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare. In the zone which is proposed, the use will not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems or constitute a nuisance, and that this otherwise meets the requirements in the zoning ordinance. And it seems quite compatible with the neighborhood.
Second.
Motion, Dr. Fitz, second by Ms. Atkinson.
There it goes. Dr. Fitz?
Yes?
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request has been approved. You better watch that neighbor, whatever she said. When next time you come down, I got a feeling you'll be really against somebody, you know, you just tried us out tonight, weren't you? Just a test pattern. Thank you all. Our next request, Nina Wells has filed an application requesting a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 813 Park Street. This property is zoned RM-4, multifamily residential. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-app meeting on December the 10th for the property that you mentioned. The current zoning is RM3. The current land use is single-family residential.
Did you say 3 or 4? It's got 4 on the application here. And 4 on the,
Should be RM4.
okay.
Yeah,
You
according
said
to our
3,
map,
I just
so
want to make sure.
apologies,
Okay,
typo.
that's fine.
Yes, RM4 there, which still permits them to apply for the CUP. And then we have a couple photos. Here is the front of the structure, and then on the other side of the garbage can there would be the parking area for the short-term rental. And then they did supply, the applicant did supply a site plan for your reference, and I'll leave that up. So again, the applicants are requesting, or the applicant is requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental. Middle of the page is a zoning ordinance reference there. A conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned RM4. Below that are the specific use standards for a short-term rental. Looking over at the supplied conditions on page 2, a maximum of 3 rooms for rent, a maximum of 3 guest vehicles in the designated parking area. Quiet hours will be from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. There will be no signage on the property. And the last, number 5, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. Below that are the conditional use permit findings for your reference. Back to page 1 for the points to consider. The Board of Adjustment should consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area, including the existing single-family residential uses located in the general vicinity and adjacent to the property. And the board should consider the impact on permanent workforce housing availability in this part of the city if the existing single-family residence is converted into a short-term rental. That's all we have for staff report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board of the staff? Thank you. Applicant here? Would you step up? I'm sure we got a couple of questions for you. Could you give us your full name and address, please?
Yes, my name's Nina Wells, and the address is 813 Park Street, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Do you swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
I do.
Unlike the last one, this is in pretty much a residential neighborhood.
There's
Single-
mixed use all around, but yes.
Yeah, single-family usage primarily, though. And it's pretty much kind of a historic district, too.
It's right on the
And,
edge, yeah.
Yeah, it's getting close to being one, I'm sure. But being a single-family usage, even though it's zoned RM4, do you feel like this business will fit in with that neighborhood up there?
I
On
do.
that street?
I do, and
And how's
I
that?
can share why.
Okay.
So one of the maps that Ms. Scott showed a lot of different colors on that map because there's just mixed use all around. So this house is actually right across from Hospital Hill, and so there's nothing right across the street. The alley provides a nice buffer between my neighbor on the right and my neighbor on the left. Currently is not living in the home. She's also aware of my plans to do this, but the biggest reason is because there have been a couple of other homes that were approved for CUPs recently, so one right down the street, about a block away on Park Street, and then one down on Main Street. So we can have some precedent for that to work in this neighborhood. So yeah, the mixed use all the way around the area, but mostly because it's walking distance from the square. And so I think it's a great way to bring people into the area to bolster the local businesses and kind of help downtown flourish. Let me check my notes and make sure, but those are the things that come to the top of my mind.
Do you have any concern that if this, people keep on applying for short-term rentals in that neighborhood, that it won't completely change the entire character of that neighborhood from single-family to short-term usage?
I
Does
see
that
what you're
concern
saying.
you?
I think there are probably a lot of people who don't do this responsibly, and I know that you don't know me, but I'm one of the ones that will. That house has, it's really important to me, so I'm going to treat it well, and I'm going to make sure that the people who enter it are going to treat it well, too.
Are you living in this house now?
Not at the moment. I recently moved about a month ago.
Okay.
But you did live in this?
I did. I lived in that house for 4 years, yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel like the parking that's behind this house is adequate for 3 cars? there?
Definitely, yeah, without a
Pretty
doubt.
tight.
It's the picture shows it kind of from an angle, but it's absolutely, you could fit 4 cars in that parking lot for sure.
Are we speaking of behind the home?
Yes, there's a parking pad behind the home.
And how many cars do you think that could hold very safely without encroaching on the alley?
Absolutely, there would be at least 3. I've done 4 and 5 before. 3 for sure. And I'm happy to make that a maximum requirement of cars. But we also do have the street parking as well. I can make it so that nobody does park in the street if that's an issue.
Okay. Any other questions from the board of the applicant?
I have a question for the board.
Yeah.
This map of zoning or land use, it's showing, is it single family or multifamily?
Single-family. This particular property, now next to it, to the right, is multifamily.
It's single.
So there's a lot of yellow and a lot of
So,
burgundy or what?
yeah, so the red there, right next is multifamily, and then there are 3 single-family, and then to the rear is multifamily.
Are there any properties in an apartment situation now in that area, you think?
The condo.
Well, the multifamily would be, the multifamily use would be apartments.
Do we have any Airbnbs in that vicinity?
There was one approved in 2002.
The condos down
Now,
on
remember
Main.
us approving the
Those
condos?
Yeah,
condos,
so-
of course,
Way down, yeah,
they're
way
right
down.
on.
They're on Main and Chestnut.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
there's
Why not?
here, on the very corner, before you get to 10th, there was a short-term rental that was approved here, in that area.
But the
Not on
zoning is
this-
RM3. But the single-family residential is the current use.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, that answers my question.
Yes, sir. Any other questions from the board? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank
Any
you.
opposition to this request? Any opposition? Please step up, sir.
Good evening.
We can get your full name and address, please?
Yeah, Jacob Bile. I'm at 638 East Main Avenue.
And you swear to tell the truth, sir?
I do.
All right, go right ahead.
I have a general concern about Airbnb in the neighborhood. So I'm one of the adjacent neighbors across from the parking area, historic home, single-family use, using it as a single family. We moved here from Nashville about 1.5 years ago, partially escaping bachelorette parties and crazy use. I agree that Airbnb can be done responsibly, short-term rental can be done responsibly. I'm not opposed to it in general. I would like to see it done well. And so my general concern is that, you know, if this one is done well, then that's great, but I hope it isn't opening floodgates or changing the character of the neighborhood. So that's my general concern with this situation.
On this map, if you can see, can you give me an idea where your property is? I know the house on the corner there, you don't have the house that's got the pool behind it, right?
The Houchins, yeah. I'm directly next to them, downhill,
Going towards the square?
towards the square,
Okay.
correct.
So you're right,
Yep, right there.
okay,
On the-
all right.
Right there.
Yeah, what many call the Nature House. Yeah.
I know, I'm familiar with it, sure.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions from this gentleman? Is that all? Anything else, sir?
What do you think about the parking situation for cars?
So I could park 2 cars along the alley, and I normally park 0 because it's hard to get
The
in and
alley.
out there.
Yeah.
Her parking situation is better than mine. I certainly wouldn't want to see 4 strangers trying to park in there, right? I could see 2, honestly. If you get more than 2, then it's probably going to be hard for them to be getting in and out, unless they're coming into mine, but obviously that's not what I'm looking for, so, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Would you like to address his concerns? Any other opposition? Come on up, please. We're trying to ignore you, almost forgot.
No, that's all right.
Your full name and address, please?
Jeff Stevens, 628 East Main Avenue.
And you swear to tell the truth, sir?
I do.
Go right ahead.
Well, I'm like my neighbor Jake. I've lived in our house since 1987, and we just love the street, the historic district. One of mine and my wife's goals is always to have single-family houses on the street and in the neighborhood. Again, I'm like Jake, not highly opposed to the Airbnb. We have been on trips and rented houses and that supposedly, you know, only 4 families can come in, but yet we can see 6 to 7 families and 10 to 12 cars and that. There is a huge parking problem on East Main. And, you know, if they can justify that is only going to be limited, then that's fine. But I sometimes don't think you can control that. That there's times where one family, and now there's 2 that have come in, and it just gets to be chaotic. There have been other rental places on our street that it's not as bad now, but parties, you know, late at night, police have been called, curtailed a little bit, picked back up. Anyway, you know, we just don't want to see that in our neighborhood. It's a nice historic place, I think the best in town. I just don't want to see that diminish. And I don't know if this would open the door to something else coming in. That's my concerns.
In relation to his house, where's your house on Main Street?
Next to the Netcher House down.
You're one more,
I'm
on the opposite side, okay.
not on the, I'm on the
On the
same
next-
side as the
Just
Netcher
a bit
House.
closer to the square.
Yeah,
one-
just one house down.
That's fine, sure. All right.
The prettiest house in town.
All right, it's a very nice looking home, I agree with you. It does look very good. Is any other questions of this gentleman? Anything else you want to say, sir? Is that all?
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Any other opposition to this request? Would you like to respond to these concerns, please?
I want to share that I really agree with both of my neighbors, and it I think is proof of the point that they're trying to make is that neighborhood is gorgeous and brilliant, and I certainly don't want the things that they're also asking for to not happen with that concern. The reason that I think that my house should be open is because I am mindful of those things. Like Jake said, if we want to say that it's max 2 cars, that's okay with me. I know that, yeah, we can't always necessarily prevent things from happening, but I'm more than happy to be proactive in making sure that, and that's part of the plan. I had those self-imposed conditions when I met with Amy in the pre-app meeting. It was like, oh yeah, that's already in my plan. I don't want to create chaos for the neighborhood. I just want to open it up to people who need to go to the hospital and need a safe place to stay, or they're going to see a show at SkyPack and they want to be able to take a stroll to dinner before they go. There's a 2-night minimum, so there's definitely a much lower chance for people to book it and say, we're going to trash the place and have a huge party and then get on out and not have to clean it. I've got a camera on the outside of the front door, which is where they have to enter. So if there's going to be 10 people coming in, I'm going to know about it. And so I just want to share that I have the same concerns and I'm prepared to make sure that they don't happen.
Addressing your concerns about that, we're opening up a business in a single-family neighborhood. And like he said, is that going to open the door for a lot of other businesses to come in that single-family neighborhood? I mean, once we open those doors, like he said, once we open those gates up, sometimes it's hard to shut.
Yeah.
And you're very concerned about the neighborhood, obviously, and we appreciate that.
Sure.
But where do you live in conjunction to this property now?
Right now I live in Louisville.
In Louisville. So if there is an issue there, the time you get here, the rental may be over and they're gone.
I will be here, back and forth to take care of the property, but as far as like situations that are acute where they would need somebody to be there on the spot, I do have somebody hired to take care of that. And they have a short-term rental themselves, so they're very equipped to handle that.
Okay.
The way I see it is, I don't know if you all are familiar with the, I can't remember what it's called. It's at the bottom of Main Street, on the corner of Main Street and Chestnut. And it's this place where people can go in and have a baby shower. I'm with Jake. I'm not a fan of the bachelorette party situation. In my mind, that's not what it's for. So
Okay.
I appreciate the concerns.
Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you, ma'am.
Don't you
I'm
think
sorry.
that particular location is right smack dab into the business district?
Sorry?
Don't you think that particular facility is right,
The facility, not your house.
not your house? The
Oh.
facility is basically right on the edge of the business district.
That's the thing about downtown is that they're so close together. So my house is at the top of the hill and that house is at the bottom of the hill.
I don't,
Correct, that's the difference.
I don't think that people on Main Street are too interested in the businesses moving on up Main Street.
I don't understand.
Well, like he said, it's right on the edge of the downtown area. Well, the downtown is pretty well defined now.
Downtown is downtown,
The
right?
corner of Chestnut and Main is pretty much the end of any businesses.
Okay.
And once you start going up the street, then it keeps on going.
Okay.
Keeps on going.
I
Anyway.
understand.
All right, any other question of the applicant? Yes, sir.
If the permit were to be approved and things didn't work out where there were problems, can that be rescinded at some point?
It can be. It can be.
That's awfully hard to do.
It's hard to do, but it could be, but it's not it's a whole lot easier to not approve it than it is to approve it and then try to get it back. Does that make sense? Yes, ma'am. Well, if you want to say something, we need to swear you in. Yeah. We let him sit there because we already swore him in, but your full name and address, please?
Susan Stevens, 628 East Main Avenue.
And you swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment what you were saying. We've been in a neighborhood, or lived in the house since '87, and all of our neighbors have taken so much pride in their homes, making it the historic district, the trolleys coming down now, and it stops and everybody's just in awe. And as neighbors, there's been other applications further down, where the condominiums were. We're trying to keep it, all the business, that direction. Like you said, we don't want it coming up into the neighborhood, because if this gets approved, it just opens the door, and it will just change everything. And that's not what all our neighbors have worked so hard. And so many people said, we love that street. We'd do anything to live on that street. That's how proud we are of our neighborhood, and truly take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions of this lady? Thank you, ma'am. All righty, everybody finished? Rachel?
Sorry, I just wanted to state one thing for the record. There was the question about if you grant a conditional use permit, and this would apply not just in this case, but for any conditional use permit. Our staff monitors annually. We're required to monitor the conditional use permits that are approved by this board. And if anyone is found in violation of their conditions that were imposed during the hearing, we can require that they come back before you all, and you can revoke a conditional use permit if you find that a property owner is in violation of the conditions that they agreed to. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
So far, we haven't had to do that, though, have we?
No.
Good. Well, I'd keep it that way if we can. All righty, motion, please.
I make the motion to deny the conditional use permit docket number 2025-C-02 for a short-term rental because the use would result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems most especially. It's not appropriate for the single-family neighborhood and could affect workforce housing.
That is a proper motion.
Motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by
Second.
Dr. Fitz.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request has been denied, ma'am. You've got 30 days to appeal it to circuit court. Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming down, too. We appreciate your input. Our next request tonight, Romay Paul and Baynor Lopez have filed an application requesting a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 225 Mossview Street, Unit B. Now, this property is zoned RM-4, multifamily residential.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting on December the 2nd for this property. The current zoning is RM4. The current land use is multifamily residential. And we do have a few photos of the property for your reference and what the parking area would look like. And then the applicants did supply a site plan for you to review. And again, the applicants are requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental. Therefore, their middle of the page is a zoning ordinance reference. A conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned RM4. Below that are the specific use standards for a short-term rental. Looking over at page 2 for the supplied conditions, number 1, a maximum of 2 rooms for rent. Number 2, a maximum of 2 guest vehicles in the designated parking area. And number 3, the quiet hours will be from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Number 4, there will be no signage on the property. Number 5, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. Below that are the conditional use permit findings for your reference. Looking back at page 1 for points to consider. A short-term rental was approved in 2022 on Village Creek Drive, and a short-term rental was approved in 2023 on Moss Creek Avenue. The board should consider if a concentration of 3 short-term rentals within a one-block radius is compatible with the area. But that's all we have for a staff report. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions of the staff from the board?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is the applicant the owner of the property?
Yes, correct. Applicant and owner.
Okay. And the applicants are here, assume that you're the applicants. Do we have any questions of the applicants from the board? Do we need to swear them in for any reason? Okay. Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the conditional use permit docket number 2025-C-3 for a short-term rental with the conditions as presented in the staff report. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed. The use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance, and it is appropriate in the neighborhood.
All right.
Proper motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Atkinson, and second by Mr. Lockwood.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Dr. Fitz?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request has been approved. Yours went pretty easy. Thank you all for coming down. You've been approved. Thank you. Have a good evening. Whole business? Hoy, nothing, no?
No, sir.
Anything new? Have we got any new business?
No, we don't have an application deadline until next Thursday, for the February DOA. So I can send out an email after how many applications we've received, so you know what you're in for,
Okay.
For February.
You said we don't have any right now?
The application deadline is not till next Thursday.
Oh, okay, yeah. But right now you don't have any?
But right now we have.
Okay, that's fine. Well, we would hate to miss that paycheck, you know? Would hate to miss that big paycheck. All right, any other new business? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all for, good night, good job.
2 days.